Welcome to another episode of Let's See Blint. I'm your host, KD, and today we have a special guest. He's a frequent guest on the Tori Lowe Show. Welcome, Eddie. How you say your last name? Eddie
DeLuisa. DeLuisa.
Okay.
Italian.
Oh, so you got Italian in your blood?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Carla, she's the one who suggested me to bring you on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would like for the listeners to know about who you are as a person.
Okay.
And, your upbringing.
So Carla is the gal who cuts my hair.
Okay.
And for the people out there, she's like a Jewish Betty Boop. She's like this little 70-year-old doll that dances around. She kind of struts around her shop like a comic strip character. And everything about her is red. She has cherry red hair. She has a cherry red Porsche. Her theme is cherry red, right? That's her thing.
Yeah.
She was cutting my hair, and you had asked her to do an interview on entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah, I did.
And then I think she said, hold it. I got somebody that I think would be better for you.
Yeah.
And then you called me, and we've been trying to do this for a couple of months now.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
That's about right, yeah.
Yeah.
So about me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm almost 60. I just turned 59 a couple days ago.
You did? Your birthday passed?
It was November 2nd.
Oh, I didn't know that. Happy belated
November
birthday.
2nd. Sometimes it's election day.
Yeah.
Which sometimes works for me. It's a nice birthday gift, right?
Yeah.
Depending on who you vote for.
Yeah.
I paint houses. I work out a little bit. I could be working out more. I'm usually exhausted by the end of a day climbing ladders at this age, right?
Yeah.
I kind of choose to do this work because I want to know that as I grow older, I can do the stuff I did when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of afraid to kind of admit, like, I'm getting too old. I'm one of those old guys. So I think that's why I do it. I'm slowing down a little bit, but I still do it just to make sure I can.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Yeah, I see. So, so how was because we should grow up in the 80s?
70s and 80s, yeah. I grew up, and it was an absolutely different time back then. People were happier, things were easier, things were more valued. And nobody, if I stuck you in a time machine and I said, let's go back to my high school days, you'd flip out with the way people treat each other. People were kinder, they were into each other, they had more empathy for one another, and people valued things. You valued your relationship. And I think with the onslaught of all this technology, and I'm guilty of it too. I mean, I go home and I turn on the TV, but I'm on my cell phone, just plugging away, right? And so is the gal I live with. I think this technology has desensitized us to the connection that we once had. Mm-hmm. And I don't think kids your age, you're 29, I don't think the younger people understand it because all they know is the technology. Mm-hmm. Like, we never had, when we saw people on Star Trek in 1979 talking on what now is a smartphone, they were called communicators on Star Trek. They called them communicators. Mm-hmm. We just thought that was futuristic, that the phone didn't have to be attached to a cord that went into the wall, that went into a telephone pole, right? Mm-hmm. We just thought, oh, that's so futuristic. And now your generation doesn't know anything but that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, so our generation valued the intimacy we had with one another. That's why if you were really funny or a great comedian or you had a lot of play with girls at a bar or nightclub, you were it, okay? Right. Because you were able to emotionally, mentally, physically alter people, and you had the power to do it. Now, nobody cares. People just get on their phone, go anywhere, go to any restaurant. People aren't really talking to each other. You see, everybody's just on their damn phone waiting for the order to come in. Mm-hmm. And it's screwing us because we weren't built that way. Mm-hmm. We were built to share a true sense of unity and fellowship and camaraderie amongst each other. And in the same way you put your cell phone on one of these pads when you come home to charge it, we're supposed to be charging each other. And nobody's doing it because we're all focused on our phones and our Instagram accounts and our X accounts. And so it's screwing everything up. And the people over 50 know this, but you younger cats, you don't know it because you don't know anything else. You just don't know anything else.
So what do you think that, my generation and my generation and the generation after me can do to become better?
You mean to change it?
Yeah, change it, yeah.
I don't know if it's going to happen, to be honest. And the reason I say that is I don't know even if they came up with some master plan to implement my generation's values and social behaviors to your generation, I don't know if people are willing to give it up. You know, everything's right there. I'll give you an example. If you want to look up Mount Rushmore, right? You get on your phone, get on Google, Mount Rushmore, and within 3 seconds, you've got all the information you'd ever want on Mount Rushmore. Now, just a few years ago, if you wanted to know about Mount Rushmore, you had to get in your car. You had to go to the library. You had to say to the librarian, hey, I need help. I need some books on Mount Rushmore. Okay, let's look up these books. And they would pull out this card catalog, and you'd look. Oh, you know, Eddie, Mrs. Goldstein has that book for another 2 weeks. Well, what about the other book? Oh, Mr. Donnelly has that book, but I'll put it on reserve, and you can come back in 3 weeks and pick up those books. Okay, you got everything's instant now. You know, you guys don't wait for the cake to bake. You know what I mean? It's got to be there. You know, it's got to be done. Everything's too instant for you guys. It's killing me. It's killing me.
I see. So let me see. Like, do you think since Trump is in office, you think he can probably make some changes?
You mean when he goes into office in January? Yeah, he absolutely will, and it's going to be better for this country. First of all, these insecure borders is just the worst thing that we could ever do, especially after a terrorist act like September 11th. Were you alive for September 11th? Okay, were you alive?
Yeah, I was like 7.
Okay, but you weren't of consciousness.
Yeah, I heard it. I seen it. I heard about it. I seen
about it, right.
I seen it, yeah.
The morning of September 11th, I think I was like, I'm taking a guess, maybe 36 years old. And I'd get up in the morning, and I always had a lot of energy, so I'd get up, turn on the TV, jump in the shower for 5 or 10 minutes, dry off, get dressed. I was out of my house in 25 minutes, and it went like I'm going to Starbucks, I'm going to the paint store, I'm going to stop at the deli, and we would all interact with each other. You just didn't walk in like you do nowadays and grab your cup of coffee and leave the Starbucks and grab your order or have the Instagram, or not Instagram, sorry, DoorDash or Uber Eats driver just drop off your food. You know, people interacted with each other. How's your day going? Hey, did you see the Packer game? Nobody's doing that really anymore. You don't see it. But again, remind me of the question. I got off on a tangent.
No, you good.
What did you say?
So I was asked, do you think Trump can?
Yes,
probably,
we're talking about the borders. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we have all these security issues on the border, and we know they exist. Okay. The NSA and CIA know about this. They know there's a certain amount of characters that have entered into the country who have terrorist ties. I mean, they're not assuming they have terrorist ties. They're on the list, and it takes a lot to be on that list, okay? And so they're letting these people in. They're letting in millions of people. You know, a lot of these people were released from jails, okay? Murderers, rapists, criminals. They entered into the country in a way that has never happened really before. You had to be vetted. So if your parents were from Jamaica, okay, and you wanted to come to America, you had to go through the correct process to do so. They had to vet you, make sure that you weren't some violent criminal, right, or wanted with Interpol. You know what Interpol is?
Nah.
Interpol is like I think it's a European or international police kind of department. It's called Interpol, okay? But if you're on the Interpol list, you're trouble, right?
Okay.
Like you're known worldwide. It's not some guy who robbed, you know, a Culver's, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are big, right? So there's many of these people on the list, and they just exposed all these criminals to all of us like we were nothing. We know handfuls of people have been murdered and raped, okay? I'm not just saying it. Everybody knows about this. Who the hell is the Biden administration to put you and our family and friends and our neighbors at risk because of their political agenda? It's just malpractice on their part. It's horrible. And I hope Donald Trump, and I think he will, he gets a hold of this and we vet some of these people. And I'm going to tell you something. I've also heard that he wants to, if you do some trouble here, let's say you do a major felony, you get 10 years. And if you do another major felony, it's life in prison, okay? Does it sound a little harsh? It does. But you know what? It'll stop. If these Kia boys, right, would get, on their first time, 5 years in Leavenworth, pounding rocks with a hammer, they would, 98% of it would stop. And nobody wants to talk about that. They want to placate. You know, they're going to go, oh, no, you know. But when these guys come on YouTube and they say, oh, I've been arrested 37 times. I've never been charged.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I think, my opinion, I think that's just a setup for them to. I'm using the wrong word. I feel that it's basically just a setup for young black men to get caught up in the system.
That's right, because if they're younger and they get a taste of punishment, and they go, I don't want to go back to that. I do not want to go to Kansas and pound rocks. You know, I've got shackles on my feet.
Yeah.
They give you a couple of hammers, and you take this big boulder, and you pound it into pebbles. It might take you a year. It might take you 6 years. But if they make these guys, if they really punish them in a way that discourages them from committing these felonious or even violent felonious crimes, they're going to change their ways. And I'll tell you something. What happens is when you're younger, you don't realize that as you get older, some of these things are favors. Okay, when I was younger, I got in a few bar fights, and I put dudes in hospitals, pretty bad stuff, okay?
Yeah.
But I got in a bar fight one time that wasn't my fault. Just absolutely wasn't my fault. I didn't start it. The police came, and the people who I was fighting with said he didn't start it. It was our fault, okay? But the cop had a grudge against me because one of his cop friends committed a hate crime, and I saw it, and I demanded that cop deal with that hate crime, okay? So there was like a vendetta for a couple of years over this. But I got in that bar fight, and even though I didn't deserve to be arrested for that or get in trouble for that, there are many bar fights that I was in where I had gone too far. You know what I mean? Where I just didn't pop the guy around a little bit, where, you know, guys were destroying each other back then. And the favor, even though I didn't like the way it went down because it was unjust, the favor of that is, I kind of thought twice, like, hold it, I could get in trouble for this again, right? And it calmed me down, and who knows if it didn't save a life or saved me 6 years in prison, you know? So, you know, some of that stuff is, you know, it's a life lesson.
Yeah, it is. It is. So what I want to ask you, why do you feel Trump is a better fit than Kamala?
First of all, he's proven. When he was in office, and got in office in 2016, he said, I'm going to do this, and that. We're getting screwed as Americans. The Europeans are screwing us on NATO dollars. The Chinese are screwing us on tariffs. You know, we're gonna even this thing out. I'm about America.
Yeah.
And I'm here for you. I'm gonna do this. This is my job to do. And he did it. And everybody I know, their wages went up. I remember gassing up my truck, and it wasn't $3.69 a gallon. It was one time, I think it was $1.29 a gallon. And they opened up the Bakken. Do you know what the Bakken is?
No, explain.
Okay, so where North Dakota meets Montana and Canada. So you have the border of Canada, and then you have North Dakota and Montana. That little triangle, there's an oil range. They call it the Bakken. It's kind of centered around a town called Williston, North Dakota. And Williston might have been a small town of like, I don't know, 10 or 15,000, and it expanded, blew up in a year or two to like 40,000. A house that used to go for 200,000 is now 550 because you know these guys are going out there. Everybody's making killer money. There were guys in Florida working at a Burger King for $9 an hour. If they go up there, they're making $50 an hour. So they're breaking open the Bakken again. When Joe Biden got in office, he signed his first day. I believe it was first or second day. He signed a paper dictating that they were going to close down that pipeline. Okay? That pipeline meant a lot of jobs. It meant a lot of oil, usable oil, and it meant that instead of you paying $3.69, and you drive a truck, right?
Yeah.
But the diesel fuel now is more than the gas. And when I was younger, diesel fuel was a third of the cost of gas.
Yeah.
So if gas was $1.50 a gallon, diesel fuel, you might get it for 69 cents a gallon. It was considered a waste fuel. So anyway, with that being said, I remember getting gas in Shorewood by Shorewood High School, $1.29 a gallon. And the projection was 70 to 72 cents a gallon for gas.
Okay.
So Biden signed that decree. They stopped the construction of that pipeline, okay?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're paying, you know, I don't know, the other day, I don't know what I paid, like $2.69, which was like a gift. When I saw that on the sign at the gas station, I thought it was a gift, right? But usually we're into the threes on gas. I think some people are saying the reason Biden wanted to stop that pipeline is because the railroad tankers that they put that oil in, so let's say they leave Williston and they have, God forbid, 600 tanker cars full of oil going to Houston, to the refineries in Houston or Baytown, okay? One of the 10 wealthiest men in America own that railroad and are huge contributors to Democratic causes. So I think it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to shut down this pipeline so you can have your train cars, every day, and it's going on for years. I mean, you're talking about billions and billions of dollars worth of commerce or transport, right, between Williston and Houston, the refineries.
I see.
Beaumont.
So, like, from your perspective, your opinion, why do you think Kamala Harris lost?
Okay, it's like this. First of all, there's something to do with self-confidence. Trump has unbelievable self-confidence.
Yeah.
But he can back it. He's not just talking. There's dudes who talk a lot of crap, a lot of shit. Then he can never back it. He backs what he says. He does an absolutely phenomenal job. People know that this guy was treated unfairly. He was charged with a rape, and the woman said, I don't know, I remember he raped me, but I don't know where it happened at or when it happened. I didn't know when it happened either. And it was such a daunting, it was so tragic for me. It was just so, but I don't know where it was. I don't know when it was. And the reason, it didn't turn out for him wasn't because there was enough evidence to show that he'd be innocent. It was that these people are all of the same ilk. They're all part of the same club. They're all part of the same tribe. And they could have him on videotape acting innocently, being innocent. They would still have convicted him because they're not about right or wrong. They're not about principle. They're not about character, credibility, integrity, or veracity. They're about getting their way. They gave him a $450 million bail. Have you ever heard of such a thing? $450 million for the most recognizable guy on earth, okay? People are shooting at him. He got shot in the head. You saw that, right?
Yeah,
got shot in the ear. I was watching that. It seems surreal. Like we didn't exactly know what was going on. So he got shot again in Pennsylvania. Oh, no, in Florida at the golf course. It was Pennsylvania.
You did? I thought they tried to attempt, or I thought they caught him before it happened.
No, he shot. The bullets whizzing by him. So that was, I think that was in South Florida, maybe Palm Beach or West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, something like that. So now this guy's been put through the gauntlet, and I want people to know this. This fella in 2015 or 2016 made $636 million. He gave that all up to take a president's salary, which I think when I was a kid, it was $240,000 a year. I think now it might be around, let's say $1 million. And then they get $1 million expense account, right? But $636 million and $1 million are two different things. And he gave back his salary. He would donate to the State Department or the Treasury or whoever it may be. He would take $1. So here's this guy, rich beyond belief. He's got a 300-foot yacht. He's got a beautiful model wife, right? He could be in the Mediterranean on a lounge chair, sipping cocktails, right? Eating great 5-star dinners. He gave that all up because he loves us enough to save the damn country from this like moral bankruptcy and malaise. We are stewing in this country, immorality. Everybody's chaotic. Like I said, there's no congruent morality or ethic anymore that we can all count on. Everybody's just living their own way, and if it affects somebody else, I don't care because it's not me. And here's a guy who wants to put it all back for us because he loves it. By the way, 78 or 79 years old.
Yeah, about the same age.
So if he gives 4 more years to the country, let's say he's 83, out of office, 84, how many years statistically will he have to live to lay on his yacht, travel to the Alps, make love to his wife, go skiing in Aspen or Vail? I mean, he's giving up his time. His time at the end of your life, the years are valuable. They're more valuable than the money.
Yeah.
He's doing it for us.
So you think Kamala didn't have confidence? Because just because
Not like him for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
but I think she was kind of pushed into this, and I think she has a different mentality. I think she has the mentality that I would see when I was a kid watching Oprah. All the housewives, it'll be like, and Kamala Harris is an author, and she wrote a book on coping. Oh, Kamala, how do you cope? Well, I'd like to really cope, and she has to be a commander in chief. She has to be basically an economic strategist, right? And there's 12 other things, and I don't think she's up to it. And I don't. Do I think there are women out there that are? I think, honestly, I don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't hate her. I don't like her. But she could have certainly done the job. Okay? Do I agree with her leftist policies? No. But she could have done it. She would have been an effective leader.
I see. Because some people feel like the Democrats, set her up to fail, in a sense.
Yeah, but she was a part of that. When they pulled Biden after that debate, they must have sat him to the side and said, Joe, you can't do this. If you do it, Trump's going to get elected. We're going to stick Kamala in. She was a part of it. She could have said, you know what, I don't feel right. I'm not ready. There are a handful of other guys who could be ready for this position who are polling better than I am. But she didn't do that. So she took the risk. She lost. And quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, good. Because I think President Trump is what this country needs now to put it back together. And you're going to find other liberals, once they get done pouting, you're going to find some people. I've been getting phone calls over the last few days, and one of my buddies grew up in the liberal bubble, liberal town. His wife grew up in a liberal town. They went to a liberal university together, okay? They moved to a liberal neighborhood and bought the $1 million house, and when I challenge him on that, I go, what about diversity? Why didn't you guys buy a house on 27th and Center or 31st and Capitol? You would have paid $80,000 for that house. You paid $1 million for yours. It's all kind of talk. But he has lately said, over the last week, I don't know how I could be so wrong about this election. And I said, you live in a bubble. All your friends are liberals. You live in a liberal neighborhood. You work in a liberal neighborhood. And I don't mean 60-40 liberal. I mean like 99-1. Okay?
Oh, that thought.
Go ahead.
Oh, never mind. No, the screen had turned off. Okay, we good. My bad. The screen had turned off. Go.
Okay, where's the camera, by the way?
Camera
That's
right
the
there.
camera?
Yeah.
All right, so with that being said, I have a couple. My best friend is pissed off at me. He is the greatest guy. He's a great friend, smartest guy. 8,000 people at our health club. He's the smartest guy at the health club. Very honorable guy, very ethical. But I have to be honest, over the last week, he is pissed off at me because of this election.
Yeah.
He's saying things to me he's never said in 25 years.
Thanks. So this is my last couple of questions about Trump. First question is, why do you think people taking it so personal on who you select? Why people can't just have that choice of freedom of picking, Trump or Kamala?
Because, okay, let's take people realistically. The vast majority of people in America are under the age of 40, okay? You've got a couple of generations of people who are self-focused. They don't have to be the rock star at their high school in sports. Everybody's got an Instagram account. Everybody's got all the social media, Facebook, this and that, so they can be independently focused on themselves, okay? You see what I'm saying?
I see. I just feel like we live in a time where, we're not entitled to have our own opinion. We
That's
can't have
true.
our own way of thinking.
Hey, man.
And then when you don't go with the agenda, it's for my culture, or you're a coon. With you, oh, you're racist.
Yeah.
It's just like, nah, like I choose to pick that. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy.
I've got literally, if we sat over coffee,
Yeah.
and you said, Eddie, here's a couple pieces of paper. I want you to write down all these incidences that happened to you. It'd be in the 80s or 90s.
All right.
And one thing is that I've experienced is that I was working for a company and got a great job review, like A+. And they had said to me, we think you're great. Can we count on you for the next 3 months? We've got about 3 months worth of work we want to give to you. And do you think you can make yourself available? And I said, yeah, I work with 5 guys, so I'll have 2 guys take care of your account, or 3 guys and 2 guys on another job site, and we'll work it in. That job it paid a lot of money, enough to raise 2 families, okay? I got a phone call. That was at about 3:30. Maybe around 4:30 or 5, I got a phone call saying basically that my services were no longer needed. And I said, well, what happened? What's going on? They wouldn't tell me. Well, 3 weeks later, I run into one of the carpenters who works for this company. And I said to him, I'm not going to use his real name. I'll just, Bob, hey, how you doing? What happened at work? And he said, I think you know what happened. And I said, I think so too, but I just need to hear it. I can't believe what I think. So tell me. And he goes, they didn't want to work with a guy like you. And I said, a guy like me? What does that mean? Yeah. And he goes, you're like a Republican. You voted for Trump, right? And I'm like, yeah, nobody wants to work with a guy like you. And I go, because of my political beliefs? Yeah. And that's how far they're going with this stuff.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he said, you do the same thing to me. And I said, no, I work with liberals all the time. As long as they're kind of good at their trades, and even if they're not, you can make them better. Still work, as long as you have good character and you're honest, and you come to work, right? I'll work with anybody. As a matter of fact, I don't want to be at the dinner party with 10 right-wing conservatives like myself. I'd like myself and 2 other conservatives, and then the other 7 people be liberals. So there's something going on. There's some banter at the dinner table, some action. And my friend said, I would never invite a conservative to my party. And I said, how boring would that party be then? Right. Everybody telling each other what they want to hear or what they think the person wants to hear. They don't believe it, but they'll tell you what they think you want to hear because they need your affirmation. They need you to like them. So they're willing to alter their own beliefs or perspectives to get your okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. I won't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, man, that's just sad, man. Like I said, we just live in a time where we can't have our own way of thinking. Some, people be mad because you're not being brainwashed.
And remember, the same people who are doing this, their credo is tolerance, acceptance, diversity, and thought coexist with everybody. But you go, well, I'm a conservative. Not you. If you are gay, black, Jewish, transgender, LGBTQ, then that's the tolerance we're looking for. But not a conservative, strong, white Christian male. You guys are garbage. Well, we built all this. Still, you're garbage. Yeah. And because of the weakness of a lot of conservative certainly not conservative, but a lot of conservative white males who bite their lips and keep their mouths shut when they should be speaking out, these things are happening. And I've discussed it with my friends who I know are as conservative as I am. When we go to a dinner party, go to a Christmas party, go to a picnic, and we're talking politics, and they are not speaking their minds. They're telling these people what they want to hear or what won't get them socially banished. And it drives me nuts. It just drives me nuts. I would rather be broke, live in a pup tent, right, and roast fires every night with a can of Campbell's soup over it, and eat it with a spoon, than live the lie that these people are living. I can't do it any other way. Our generation was not raised to live a lie.
Yeah, I agree.
Live a narrative. These are narratives. People are living these narratives.
I agree. So this is really my 2 last questions about Trump. My second question is, we talked on the phone for the past few months, and one of the things you mentioned about, I don't know if it was you said it or I think I heard someone else said it, that Trump going to bring back common sense to the country.
I think I said that.
Yeah, okay. I've not seen a comment on TikTok, and they said the same thing, and I thought of you. So what do you mean about he's going to bring back common sense to the country?
Do you live in an apartment? What do you live in, a duplex, an apartment?
Apartment.
Do you leave the door open?
Nah.
Why not?
Because, somebody might come and break in.
That's right. But we left these borders open, and these people are sucking up resources. For example, you're a black fella. In the black community, they don't have everything they need.
All right.
And a lot of these dollars are being spent on these illegals. Like I said, some of them terrorists, some of them criminals, some of them, right? Bringing drugs over, fentanyl, to poison our country. They're coming into our country, and some of them are going to bring the fentanyl, and people are going to die as a result of it. So I think that he's going to stop that kind of stuff. He's going to stop the war in Israel. He's already talked to the Palestinians. He's not even in office, and he talked to Zelensky in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Talked to Vladimir Putin. And I think this guy gets shit done. He doesn't fuck around. He just goes, what's it going to take? This is what I'm proposing. Let's do it. Do we have a deal? No. Okay, we'll swing. The guy gets stuff done. He's a schmoozer, and it's working out for him, and it works out for the country.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I find it amazed, like a lot of world leaders was congratulating him. And that right there says a lot about him.
Because he's bringing stability to the world.
Yeah.
And without that kind of stability, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The world's going mad. And it's like peace through power.
You also mentioned that you think Trump can help blacks. What?
Okay, this is a big thing on the show when we talk on like Troy Lowe's show.
Yeah.
A lot of black callers call up, and this kind of upsets me. Okay. And they'll be like, what is Donald? And let's go back a few weeks, even like a couple months. I don't like Donald Trump. What's he gonna do for the black community? Well, you know what? Stop thinking black. Start thinking, I'm a man, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a member of this community. I happen to be black, right? And I'm gonna prosper from being in this great economy. These specific things, they're kind of outdated, okay? And if you don't wanna think monolithically as an ethnic group or a race or whatever, you've got to kind of buy into the idea that you're independent, you just happen to be black. I happen to be a white guy, my ethnicity, I'm Italian, right? It happened. It has nothing to do with me buying gas at the gas pump. It has nothing to do with me buying this polo shirt, And so there has to be kind of a new mindset. And it seems to me like when you're a painter, the steps on a ladder, when a guy steps up a ladder, those steps, they're called rungs. You're on rung 1, 2, then you climb up, right? Every other ethnicity, it seems to me, is 20 rungs up. Some are at 17 rungs, some are at 22 rungs. And it seems to me a lot of people in the black community are circling around the bottom of the ladder, trying to figure out if they want to go up the ladder, while everybody else is prospering. And they need to kind of say, hey, what is it going to take for us, for our generation and for our kids and their kids' generation to achieve not just emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, but, socially, financially, academically, right? What is it going to take? And because this circling in the bottom of the ladder isn't working. It's not working it's working for some. You can't say all blacks are doing it, and I wouldn't say that. There are very successful blacks, but those successful blacks agree with me.
Yeah.
You got to put a foot up in faith, and you've got to make a good attempt before you give up.
Yeah, because see, the problem with with my community, sometimes we look for someone to save us. Sometimes we look for a president to save us or whoever instead of looking at ourselves to do better, And that's something I kind of dislike about my community sometimes. Like we got to look at ourselves. We got to look at ourselves in the mirror to
So you're 29 years old. You've been to plenty of parties, house parties. I bet you've been to gatherings where there's only like 9 people in a kitchen. You're playing cards or drinking beer or whatever you're talking. You guys talk about this stuff?
To be honest, with my friends, no. But I do talk to like my family members.
Why is it that you don't talk to your friends about it?
That's something that we're not really too interested in. Well, I say certain people that I'm around, they not too really interested in.
Okay.
Like the conversations that I have with, the conversation I'm having with you, somebody I talk to who's like way older than me. Like I said, like my aunt.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But the guys your age,
nah, not really.
they're not into it, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, that could be part of the problem. So all the people who are into it are using their influences, right, to get things their way and to get ahead. And what is your average 29-year-old young black male doing in Milwaukee? What are they doing on a Friday night?
Might not make the best decisions at times.
But what are they doing?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe smoking, playing a game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was 29, let me think, that was a while ago. Jesus, 29.
Yeah.
We would probably come home from work. A bunch of us would meet at a bar, have a few drinks. When you have a few drinks, you feel a little giddy. After 3 or 4 drinks, you're starting to, kind of get happy, right? And then you drank and God forbid, you didn't have a woman, you not chased a woman, but you talked to a gal, saw that. We had fun socializing with each other, But I've always cared about politics. I started when I was 18. I saw some things go down at a place I worked at, and I just knew I didn't want to be a part of that, and I knew I had to be on top of things.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I got into it at 18 or 19. In a way, my college friends didn't. They didn't care. They just wanted to go to parties,
So I'm gonna ask. So you asked me what a 29-year-old black person would do on a Friday night. Well, I believe I want to re-answer that differently.
Okay.
They'll do the same thing like a white 29-year-old would do.
Do they go to I hear this a lot.
Yeah.
They go to the club. The club has become the new church.
Okay.
Like people used to talk about going to church. Everything's the club, right?
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Can it be that fun to go to the club every night?
Yeah, but I mean, everyone, have their own. Every culture have their own way of celebrating. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to speak on different cultures because I don't want to sound ignorant, but like maybe like a group of Jewish people, they have their own way of celebrating.
Yep.
That's not for us. We might look at them kind of strange, like how can they listen to that type of music? But my culture, we might, listen to different things or go to the club. That's our way of expressing ourselves to have a good time. But when things get violent, then it's like, okay, that's not cool. But yeah.
So if you have to triage this, okay, if you're a black male, father of 3, 35 years old, father of 3.
Yeah.
If you have to triage this, it seems to me, and like you have a job, you're a truck driver, right?
Yeah.
You go to work, then maybe, on a Friday, Saturday night, you go have some drinks with some friends. It's normal. I did the same things. But it seems to me, and I might be wrong about this, I'm willing to admit if I am, that the club, there's more energy about the club than there is about getting the community together.
I agree.
So if you take a 35-year-old black male and say, how many hours, I got this stopwatch, how many hours this week have you been at the club? And it turns out to be, 16 hours at the club having drinks. How many hours have you given back to build your community this week? With the vast majority of people, it's not going to be 20 minutes in that week. Like, is the focus, the priorities, are they kind of skewed? Is the club more important than getting the community together? And that makes me wonder, you know what I mean? Because if any community in America overall, in every urban situation, is in trouble, it's the black community. And it's black, and the mainstay of this, the real problem that I see, and I think it's the biggest problem in America, barring cancer or people dying of AIDS, how many black men die in every major city in America every day? How many get shot? How many die?
But let me ask you this. So when a person hear you say this, they may say, oh, he's racist because his perspective on blacks and things like that. What is your thought?
That's kind of like the get out of jail free card. So if Eddie says there's 81 major metropolitan areas in America, New York being the largest at about 16 million, and again, ironically, our Madison, Wisconsin is considered the littlest big city in America. So 81 major metropolitan areas. Madison's at about 500,000 metro, okay? Every one of those cities for 50 years, 5 decades, has had one thing in common, and that's like off the charts, homicidal black on black violence. It's not happening to the Amish, the Jewish, the Quaker, the Shaker, Mennonites, Methodists, Mormons, Protestants, or Pentecostals. When I turn on Fox 6 in the morning at 7, it's Milwaukee police are on a homicide on 21st and Capitol. Oh, this just in. Milwaukee police are on a homicide on 31st and Cherry, And it's not guys who look like me who are shooting each other. It's black males. And people say, oh, you can't say that every time. I'm going to say it, okay? It's like the last stat I looked up maybe 3-4 weeks ago, if it was 88 or 93% of the homicides in Milwaukee were African-American males killing other African-American males. Now, those are the ones who died, okay? For every one homicide, statistically, there's between 8 to 10 stabbings or shootings where they live, but now they live with a limp, or they're in a wheelchair, or they have a colostomy bag because the bullet tore up their gut, right?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the guy who gets a bullet in the head, and he was a great high school athlete, was college bound. He gets a bullet in the head, and now he can't even hold a fork to feed himself. You know, right? But it's happening in every major city in America. And people aren't doing a damn thing about it. They get on, they go to a press conference, and they go, the mayor is going to be on, and the mayor says this: we can't tolerate these homicides, and this has to stop. Nothing stops. It's been the same way for years.
Yeah.
Same way for years. And there has to be a collective decision about the quality of life in the black community.
Yeah.
What is valuable? You know, how do we contain this anger and this lack of impulse control so that if you look at me the wrong way, I don't want to shoot you and kill you and then spend 40 years in jail without, taking care of my 5 kids, right? Something has to be done. If I say it, I'm a racist, I'm a bigot. If I take that same piece of paper that I read off, hand it to a black man, he reads it word for word. They go, oh, this black man is like a messiah. He should run for alderman or state senate. He could run for Congress. We'll all vote for him. He's black. But the white guy's a racist for saying exactly the same thing, even though I'm protected constitutionally to say these things, right?
Yeah.
And the reason people will have that mindset is because white guys have become so weak. Can I say the word pussy?
Oh, yeah, say it.
White guys have become such pussies. And it's not all. I know a lot of tough guys, a lot of guys I won't want to mess with, right? But so many guys over the last 15 or 20 years, I started seeing this in like 1992, 93. I was like 30. And I didn't understand these guys because they were like weak and they were okay with it.
And
like,
so what makes them weak?
Well, I think that what happened is you've got a generation of feminists who were kind of fed up with being second class as women, okay?
Okay.
They can't achieve the way men can, but they actually can because now they've proved it, right?
Right.
But I mean, if you looked back then, look at Congress, look at all the senators, look at all the Supreme Court justices, look at all the governorships, look at all the presidents before Obama, this was, right? Okay. Look at all the world leaders, look at, the top 20 countries, manufacturing countries in the world. It's all white guys. And recently, South Korea and Japan. And I think China's now, seeping in there. But quite frankly, if you're a white guy and you really think about it and allow yourself to think of it the same way you might have said this to yourself, black men dominate the NBA. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have 3.5% of the population from 18 to, let's say, 40 that dominate the NBA, right? But if I say, well, when you look at it, white guys dominate being world leaders, right? Being CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, whatever it may be. You're a racist. Well, okay, just set that to the side and let's talk this out. No, you're a racist, and that's it. Because they need to believe that, and they want to shame you into silence. And the problem isn't there. Now they've showed us who they are. Okay, it's not about right or wrong. It's not that 2 and 2 is 4. They want it to be 5, 6, or 7. It's that we don't call them out on it.
Right.
And so the acquiescence of middle-aged conservative white males has allowed this by not speaking out against it, not being brave enough to say this is bullshit. 2 and 2 is 4. It's not 7, 9, or 5 because you identify.
Right.
It's crap, and it's a lot of it's our fault for allowing it.
I see. So me and you had a conversation before we started this, and you mentioned that blacks are more racist than whites.
I believe so.
But see, I just want to comment on that.
Go ahead.
I don't think that's true. My opinion is that, blacks can be prejudiced, that I can say, but racist, I don't think so, because black people, we don't have no type of power.
Okay, I hear this argument all the time.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Well, first of all, people use the word racist in the wrong way.
Okay.
Because, I'm always arguing on the talk radio show, right? I'm arguing with white kids who are from Oconomowoc, and they take hip hop dance, and they're dating a black man, and daddy, he's going to be a rapper.
Yeah.
You know, you'll see dad, right?
Yeah.
And so, by the way, it's been going on for years. I've been living by UWM for years, and it's always the same story with this, right?
Yeah.
But the word prejudice means that you literally, I think I'm better than you because of the color of my skin, okay? I've met 3 white people in my life who've kind of said to me, I just don't like their skin color. 3, and 2 of them are dead, okay? And so that's, you know, when people kind of bitch about black people, black neighborhoods, black community, it's never about the color of the skin. It's always about the culture, the violence in the culture, okay? You know, for example, the dietary stuff, I like a lot of the foods you like. I think everybody does, right? But the one thing, if you really had to sit down 10 white people and say, what upsets you about blacks? Here's a list of 10 things it could be. 9 out of 10 would pick the violence and the chaos and the mayhem. So you take that away, nobody cares. I mean, Asian people are different from white people. You know, blacks and whites genetically are closer than we are with Asians. And with Jewish people, too. Jewish people are, blacks and whites are closer genetically than I, as a white guy, is with a Jewish person, especially like a Kohen, like the priests, okay? So it really is not about skin color. That's bullshit. And I've been hearing it so long, it just bothers me because there's not a lot of thought put into the reality of what's going on. It's really about violence. And anybody who says it isn't is lying. These are the same white liberals who pride themselves on being liberals. They got all the right lawn signs. They got the right pens. Their daughter went to prom with a black guy, you know, at Mesmer, right? Yeah. And they do all the right things. They check off the right list. You know, we have a black guy. He just joined our country club, you know. But they never live in neighborhoods when they talk about multiculturalism, integration, diversity. A lot of them live over by Lake Drive in little enclaves. And even though they're on the Milwaukee side of Shorewood, they're in Milwaukee, they're not sending their daughters to Riverside. They're sending their daughters to Divine Savior. They're sending their sons to Dominican or Marquette, right? But they say, oh, multiculturalism. You know, Johnny and I went to a fundraiser for blacks, and we donated $1,000 to the Boys and Girls Club so they have new basketballs. And then you're supposed to go, oh, my God, Jenny, thank God for you and your husband. But they won't seep themselves. You know what I mean? They won't really get into it. They won't really get into the culture.
But I mean, living in Milwaukee, it is definitely segregated.
Okay.
You know, and like I had a relatives who's live in Vegas, and they came to visit in Milwaukee to come to my dad's funeral, and they mentioned the difference of living in Vegas and being in Milwaukee.
Right.
Because in Milwaukee, you know, well, in Vegas, I'm comparing Vegas. They don't get the ugly face, the mean mugs. But then when they come to Milwaukee, to different places.
Now, who's giving the mean mugs? Blacks to blacks or whites to
whites?
blacks? Oh, come on! White people are so afraid of black people. Yeah. They won't look at. Sometimes they won't even look at them because they're in fear that it might set off the black guy.
I mean, it's difference of fearing and giving them an ugly look are two different things.
I don't see it anymore. If you would have said that 40 years ago, 30 years ago when I was coming up, I could see some of these guys. You know what I mean? Because I was growing up around some of these older guys, and they were kind of like that.
Yeah.
And Vegas is a transient city. Yeah. So you move to a neighborhood in Vegas. So let's say you're in an apartment or condo complex. Your neighbor here is from Nebraska. The one on the other side is from Kentucky. The one down 2 or 3 apartments is from Texas. The one down 2 or 3 this way is from Connecticut. So everybody doesn't know each other. So, you know, if neighborhoods are more integrated, it just is what it is, you know?
But when someone hear you say that, they might say, okay, for you to say what you had said, they might say you're living in denial.
Okay, I'm living in denial?
Yeah, because yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been to every major city in America except for Seattle and Portland. And I think I was on the outskirts of Portland. But if I haven't eaten there or gotten a hotel room there, I don't really consider it, right? So every major city that I've seen is kind of like this. Milwaukee, they always go, Milwaukee is the most segregated city in America. A lot of cities are segregated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. If I gave you, not an assignment, if I said, hey, I want you to do this for me. I want you to look up the top 10 NBA players in America. The top, did I say 10 or 20?
10.
10. And I want you to look up their salaries. And then I want you to take Google Maps and see the neighborhood they grew up in. And then the neighborhood they moved to after they signed that big contract.
Right.
They're moving to white neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Okay? Why? If white people are so bad and we're so racist every day, all the time, without exception, and they could stay in their neighborhood, even if they had to knock down a house or two to build their mansion, they could do it. Why do they strive to be in white neighborhoods?
You got an excellent point, because they'll feel safer. But it's also it's a con to it as well. Because me personally, I wouldn't want to live in a neighborhood full of white people. I would live in a neighborhood that got black, whites, Asians.
Yeah.
You know, because for me personally, if I'm living in a dominant all white area, in my head I'm thinking like, okay, maybe some racist people out here. And maybe some racist people out here. If I live in an area full of dominant blacks, it'd be a bunch of ignorant or something. You know what I'm saying? So me personally, I would want to live like different mix. I wouldn't want to live, all whites and stuff like that. But you're making an excellent point, though.
Okay, here's the difference between us and nobody knows me. I think a few people believe me,
Yeah.
but I think the people who don't know me don't believe me. I would rather live in a subdivision in a cul-de-sac with 10 strongly conservative black families than 10 white liberal families. And my friends who know me believe that. Okay? Because to me, it's about character,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if a lot of these liberals, they just don't seem to have like a moral constitution to them. Anything goes. I like everybody. This is okay and that's okay because they need everybody to like them.
Yeah.
They don't want any kind of confrontation because they judge themselves based on the approval of others.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so you would suspect, people who don't know me would suspect that I'd want to live in an all-white neighborhood. I want to live in a great neighborhood. And if
Yeah.
that means that there are 10 black families that are solid and positive and proactive and hopefully conservative, right? That'd be fantastic. It wouldn't bother me in the least. As long as everybody's getting along, it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
So let me say this, though. I know this for a fact. And I remember there was a famous author, and I know his name, but I can't believe I can't think of it right now. But I've said his name 70 times in my life. He's a professor at Berkeley, okay? And about an hour down the road, maybe an hour and 20 minutes, would be Stanford University.
Yeah.
So he's a professor at Stanford and at Berkeley. And he wrote a book, and the book was about how racist black people were. And he said, I've been to white parties and I've been to black parties. And when that one white guy shows up at the black party and he leaves, he said, all people do is rip on him. Like, who was that cracker at our party and do the motherfucker, right, and all that. And he said, white people don't do that. They don't do it. And here's the difference, too. If I'm at a party and I make an off-color comment, let's say, God forbid I use the N-word, right?
Yeah.
Other white people are going to go, hey, what are you doing? And then there'll be some scuttlebutt. And they'll be like, oh, he used the N-word. Oh, my God, did you hear 4 hours ago Eddie used the N-word? Oh, we have to sanction him. We have to, let's get him fired. Somebody slash his tires, right?
Yeah.
But when black people make disparaging comments about white people, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. They're like, oh, well, what do you expect? This is the way it is. Nobody's going to stand up to these guys, so they get to do it, and you need to accept it. And it's bullshit, and it's hypocritical. And I guess we should get to a point of respecting each other. But I think the African-American community holds so much contempt and so much animosity towards white people. I'm not talking about the 24-year-old Becky at the club who looks good and is smashed at 2:30 in the morning, right? And he can take her home. Oh, no problem with that. But an outspoken, conservative white guy who doesn't want to be a coward, doesn't believe in racism. I'm not a skinhead. I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a Klansman. I'm not a white supremacist. I don't believe in any of that either.
Yeah.
But I don't even have the right to have my own opinion. Screw that.
Yeah.
Screw that. It's worse to be squelched than it is to be socially ostracized by people I don't respect.
Right.
To me, they're pesos. There's a lot of them, but there's no value to them.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, because a lot of blacks live in that past trauma of like getting mistreated by the cops, or, you know, they probably, you know, have a family member who's gunned down by a police officer, or, you know, some people be real deep in past history where they hold on to the, you know, the white man did this and white man did that.
You mean genetically hold on to it? Like in DNA?
Not DNA, but just like basically based off past experience or knowledge they got from doing their homework on the history of this country.
Okay, but aren't blacks like your age waking up to the fact that the racism that whites might have had, let's say 40 years ago when I was coming up, okay?
Yeah.
Is absolutely, it's just not there anymore, okay? And if you're to be a racist, if you're white, other white people will sanction you, okay? You know, it depends where you are. If you're on the east side of the Milwaukee, you're getting sanctioned, okay? If you're maybe out in, you know, some rural county, which bothers me, by the way. I have an issue with white people who don't like blacks but have never experienced blacks. So, like, I was up north one time, and these guys were complaining about the N-words. And I said, now, hold on, guys. I go, did you guys go to high school with black people? And they're like, well, no. And I go, where are the nearest black people from this town? And they're like, Green Bay. And I said, yeah, like on the Packers, right? And they're like, oh, so, you know. So Green Bay is what, like 2 hours from here? They're like 2.5 hours. And I'm like, well, if you haven't really experienced this culture and you haven't had any history with them, how could you have these attitudes, right? And they said, do you have any attitudes towards them? I said, I do, but I've had 1.5 million experiences with them that weren't positive, okay? But I've experienced it, okay? I dipped my foot, I dove in, and now I know the water's cold, okay? But for you guys not to have these experiences, right, I have an issue with. Do you see what I'm saying?
All right.
I just have an issue with it.
Yeah, I think it's to do with, like I said, past trauma, and then those people who you mentioned, just you know, their upbringing, in my opinion. Yeah.
Do you ever have a group of guys around and you guys know somebody from the neighborhood or a relative, and you know the guy isn't trying at life? He's got all this responsibility, won't keep a job, won't do a job. Well, the man's keeping me down. You know how it is, the man. And you want to go, bullshit, man. You've had 11 jobs in 11 weeks. You're not getting up in the morning, getting drunk and high every day, whatever it may be. It's not the man, it's you at this point. Do you guys ever do that?
Some. That's why I go back to what I said. We got to look at ourselves.
Yeah.
And not look at the white man,
Right.
or we can't look at us as we are looking for someone to save us. We got to save ourselves.
Well, I've met a lot of basically conservative, well-meaning, common-sense black men who say, you know what, Eddie, I got a nephew like this. He's got 4 kids, doesn't have a job, 4 different women, can't support the kids, he's on welfare, smokes pot all day, deals drugs. And that drives them nuts because they're like, listen, I'm showing my kids an example. I'm roofing houses. These guys are making $1,000 a day. I'm making $1,000 a week, and I'm 38 climbing up roofs. You know, I know they're bothered by it.
Yeah.
But there has to be a point where collectively people in the black community say, hey, we're not tolerating this shit. You're dealing, hey, knock on the door. Hey, what's your name? My name's Tyrese. Tyrese, we noticed that you're a drug dealer. You moved in this neighborhood 3 months ago. You're dealing drugs. The rest of us aren't going to have it. So we're going to ask you to look for another place and stop dealing drugs in our neighborhood in front of our kids. And we're going to ask you to leave. We have a standard in this neighborhood, and you're not living up to it. Or you can stop dealing the drugs and be a positive, proactive part of this community. It has to happen. Nobody else is going to do it.
I agree. I agree to that.
Yeah?
I agree with that. I agree with that. You know, you're very, you know, when Carla told me about you, she said you're a very interesting guy. And she was not lying about
Really?
that. Yeah, man, in a good way.
I don't see it.
Yeah, because, you know, you're very unapologetic. You speak on how you feel.
It's just the truth. It's
Yeah.
not Eddie being this this brilliant. I'm just speaking the truth, and anybody can do it. I'm just a pitcher that holds the water.
And I respect that because you speak your truth and you live in it. You know what I mean? And you're not afraid to speak your mind, and I like that.
Thank you.
You entitled to your opinion.
I appreciate that. That's
yeah,
cool.
man. Yeah, man. No, yeah. So, that's all the questions I have, man.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I think
man.
it went good. How did I go? My first podcast.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah, it went well.
I think it's my first. Yeah.
Yeah, it went well.
Good.